Here at SeaCity Museum, we hear many myths and conspiracy theories linked to the sinking of the RMS Titanic. We think that it is disrespectful to those whose lives were lost when falsehoods are spread about the sinking. In this short video, we're going to look at just one theory and show why it is wrong. The theory is that the wreck at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean is not the Titanic, but her sister ship, the Olympic. The theory suggests that because of a collision in September 1911 between the Olympic and a Navy cruiser called HMS Hawke, the owners of the Olympic, the White Star Line, decided to sink the Olympic and claim the insurance money paid out. So not to arouse suspicion, the Olympic was switched with the newest ship of the fleet, the Titanic. Titanic in turn lived out a long career as the Olympic instead. The theory itself was made popular by Robin Gardner, who wrote a book in 1995 called The Riddle of the Titanic. The conspiracy suggests that the Olympic was due to be sunk via letting water in gently by opening sea valves. All of the passengers and crew would be rescued by a ship called the Californian and maybe others that were owned by the same company as the Olympic. Unfortunately, disaster struck when she accidentally hit another would-be rescue ship, causing her to sink earlier than expected, with great loss of life. The so-called evidence for the claim was based on a couple of strange bits of information. The first was that the Olympic was known to have 16 portholes on sea deck, but in photographs of the Titanic during her building, she is shown with only 14 portholes in the same area. By the time of her completion, there were 16 portholes. The suggestion is that this shows that they were swapped. Gardner also pointed to a letter from a man called James Fenton, who claimed that he had been a member of the crew and was told the sinking was an insurance scam, and that he had been told if he told anyone about it, he faced 20 years in prison. Does this make any sense? I would argue no. First, when the Olympic and Titanic were built in Belfast by Harland and Wolff, they were each given unique yard numbers, which were stenciled or stamped onto various bits of the ship. Olympic's was 400 and Titanic's 401. When the Olympic was broken up in the 1930s, parts of the ship were salvaged and some still have 400 clearly marked. If they had been switched, you would expect it to say 401. Secondly, if the Californian was on standby to help rescue the sinking Olympic, then it is rather surprising that in the event the captain, Stanley Lord, didn't spring into action as soon as it was reported to him that his ship was firing rockets, which the Titanic did, and nor did he insist on his Morse code operator staying at his post during the night. Thirdly, the question of the portholes is shown to be completely incorrect. Photographs taken at her launch in 1911 show that Titanic did have 14 portholes on sea deck, but by January 1912 she had 16 portholes, added to create extra ventilation and light, and in the intervening time there'd never been time for a switch to take place. What of James Fenton, who claimed to have been on board Titanic? No record of him ever being on the Titanic exists. Finally, it is worth mentioning that the Titanic was insured for $5 million, but her cost was $7.5 million. In other words, when she sank, the owners lost out on millions of dollars, not to mention the reputational damage that the sinking caused. It would seem nonsensical to try and pull off such a dangerous and risky venture. That is why along with many other reasons, we know that the Titanic, and not the Olympic, is the ship that sank.